Okay, so I don't know if a lot of guys do it, but it's one of my favorite techniques. It's skipping a jig. It's kind of difficult to get used to. You backlash all the time, you wreck your spools. But for me, I use a shorter rod so I can kind of get that side pitch and not bury my rod in the water and get into those issues. Fluorocarbon, 20 pound, it's kind of a bit more forgiving on backlashes. So I like to use that. I don't have much issues around docks. The 20 pound's pretty abrasive. It's 100% sunline or Berkley trialing. So that works. And then you want to spool your reel up a little less. It prevents a lot of that backlash issue. So that's one of the big things I do. An archy head or the skipping heads, you want it to be similar to like a skipping stone. Because that's more or less what you're doing. You're skipping that jig under the dock. You can do like the straight pitch and just let it slide under, or you can do the full side arm. So I kind of leave, I don't know, about a foot, and then it's just all side roll action. So that's just all the technique takes. Takes a ton of time. Honestly, I start my season out, I don't go walleye fishing, I go to a compact bay and I skip a jig. And I just sit there and skip a jig. It takes time, it sucks. You're not catching a lot of fish when you're practicing it, but man, it's productive. Get to the very back of docks, get right underneath everything, go to the darkest stuff, and if you can get a jig to start sliding like a Senko, you're in business. Big fish like big baits. So that's what I use. A lot of times I just use a Chigger Craw, so that's a pretty good technique. So yeah, here's one of my jigs. This is a Nichols Skipper Jig, and then other ones I use are archy jigs. So that's kind of this setup. So I don't know if anybody had skipping questions or any thoughts about this stuff. All my rods will be up here tonight. So, but yeah, that's kind of my skipping setup. Yeah, that's mostly docks. Docks, laydowns, like you can throw that right in the wood piles, like big down timbers and everything. So that works good.
Do you use it? Do you use it quite a bit up here?
Oh yeah.
Like mixing?
Yep. Yeah, all this stuff I use up here.
Like
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I've never thrown a jig ever up here for anything. Because I've always been a smallie guy.
Yeah.
But I said I heard you probably catch smallies on jigs too.
Yep. Yeah, different profiles. The archy does work. Yeah, how's it going, guys? So a lot of times with kind of smallmouth jigs, I'll use a football head. So I'll put that football head out there, so that definitely works. So does swim jigs. All the jigs have different head styles and everything of that nature. So, but jigs do pay work. They're one of my confident baits. You're not going to get a ton of bites all the time, but you're getting big ones. It's that big profile. The skirt really flares and gives that bigger profile. So it's either crayfish or it gives you kind of that bluegill approach.
And then what do you do anything once it's under there? Are you just shaking it, or are you popping it off the bottom like this?
I'll get it to the back usually, and I'll just let it settle, and then I'll just pull up my slack and just kind of lift. So kind of like you're using it like a tube. So you just kind of pick it up and just to see and feel. Because generally if it's at the back, that fish is going to hit it. So if it doesn't, then kind of depending on the day too, I'll either just pop it and kind of swim it out, or I'll just kind of just do a pop and swim it through, even shake my rod tip. That makes it kind of vibrate and pulse like bluegill coming through. Yeah. So there's different kind of ways to do it, or you can just do slow drags. It all depends, but a lot of times you get to the back, 1 or 2 pops, you're getting it. That's kind of the way I go with it. And I like to get right in the back of those dark pockets near the posts. I love pontoon boats. That gap between the pontoon and the motor, you get it under there, and if you start skipping a jig under there, you're getting the big stuff.
Without hitting the pontoons?
Yeah. Don't worry about that. If you do though, just keep going.
Yeah. Just keep casting.
So, actually,
don't worry about the pontoons.
northern larges are semi-dumb, so it's a dinner bell sometimes with that. So, that's one, so that's kind of just my dog.
But the owner's not always happy.
No, just
Never happy.
have your eye on a swivel and get in there quick, make your first skip, and your first skip is the most important usually. If you blow it up on that first one and you show that fish an absolutely wrecked jig or a horrible skip, and they're kind of aware, they're like, what is that? Then you really got to work for it. So come in and give yourself space. Like if I'm going to a dock, I'm here from you, Steve. Like I'm not right at it trying to get underneath. I want to initiate that skip back and let it start by the end of the dock. So it's just like a skipping stone. That first one, you either stuff it or you get that first big off. I've had that first hop absolutely wrap me underneath dock cribs and dock pilings, and it sucks. You're saying buy it at $3 to $5 right there. So yeah, it's kind of my dock technique. Getting into heavier cover, I go to, well, actually I'll swing that out. So kind of sparser cover, or your kind of matted vegetation. Generally like sparse grass clumps, your isolated lily pads, even some of your timber laydowns, I'll keep with that jig. But this is a larger, heavier kind of flipping jig, and I'm all about big bites with buckets. That's what I like. There's obviously days when I go for numbers, but you throw that bigger meat in there, and it really gets you into it. So on this, and with all my bigger baits, I throw 7.6 at minimum. 7.6 to an 8 foot. Heavier power, you can see it doesn't have much. It's all tip, tons of backbone. I think on this I'm running 50 pound. I think it's a Spiderware Smooth. It's just 50 pound to 65 pound. You want to really know how to, you got to cut that vegetation down. So that's where your braid comes into play in that heavier cover. Higher speed reel, 7.3 to 1. The other one, that was a 7 or an 8 to 1. But it's all about high speed. As your bait goes in, you want to get it out just as fast, and it increases all your flips throughout the day. So that'll get you into play. With the bigger jig, usually I'm half to an ounce, because you want to penetrate that cover and make sure it gets down. You can play with all your jig drop fall rates by your trailer. This one I have a Berkley pit boss. It's kind of a bulkier profile with more appendages, so it flaps and slows the fall. You can use kind of like just a chunk, which is more of a glide, and it'll just slide through the cover where you don't have all those appendages flapping. So there's all different rates of fall, and you just play with them on the day. I've had days where I've thrown an ounce and a half bait just to get a bite, and legit it was just pure reaction, just and they're eating it. Other days I got to throw 16th ounce and just let it glide. So you got to play with it, but sparse cover, I go with the jig and the big stick. It generally produces that bigger bite. I like to throw it past my cover sometimes, or just on the skirts, and then bring it back through it. That generally works pretty good. So yeah, that's another one of the combos I really like using, and I like jig. So that's one of them. Once the vegetation gets a bit tighter, your jig's going to start getting caught up and it's not going to go through. But I still like that larger profile, so I'm going to a punch skirt. So it's Texas rated pegged. So this one I think I got a 1 ounce peg on there. I've then got my punch skirt, and then just straight shank hook. You can use an EWG if you want. And then this one for the heavy cover, you want something that doesn't have much for appendages. So right now I'm just using the 4.5 inch Chigger Craw. I really like the double spear Berkley had. It's no longer made, but super slender profile. It just slides through, so it doesn't really create much issue. So you hit that cover and it's going right through the hole. If you got all the appendages, you drop it, it's getting caught on all the weeds. I'm sure you guys have seen it. You throw something with a big tail or a big worm, and it just sticks to the lily pad. So you want to just keep that as a slender profile, and it's going to drop through for you in that heavier stuff. So yeah, this is another one I really like. And then once again, a 7.6 and a high speed. This is the Revo Rocket. It's a 10 to 1. So yeah, when I'm flipping and covering water, I'm just punching my hole. This one you got to get it in the hole. Like I'm talking heavy cover, like you can't really see holes in it. It's heavy vegetation. It's congested, and you just want to keep punching and being thorough. Like I go 2 foot, I just keep punching it and working it. It's tough on a tournament day if you're covering water, but if you've found a school of fish and you're relocating them on a tournament day, I'd go to your area and start picking it apart. But if you're trying to locate, I'd kind of spread it out a bit. But treat all your largemouth water and your lily pad sections like their own isolated little lakes. You have your points in your weeds. You've got your deeper cover. A lot of times I pay attention to how much line's coming off my reel, or I'll just do the old flip tech, or I'll just do this technique where I control my line off, and then I know how much line's in my hand with what kind of contours are in the vegetation. So that kind of helps you clue in on, okay, there's a pocket. Or, all right, that just came up, what did I hit? Am I on a log underneath? Stuff like that that you don't know. So there's a lot to it that could just be more than just doing this all. I mean, a lot of guys that just aimlessly go and flip and do their thing. But there's a lot to it. I mean, Cache Bay is a minefield. You can spend an entire summer in there and not flip it off. Trust me, I've tried. I've done that entire west side from the Rock Island in the middle all the way back, thinking I would find a school in that cabbage, and I just lose my jigs and pipe. But it's not for lack of effort. So yeah, that's just keeping on rolling on kind of that heavier cover technique. And then the standard, which most of you guys thought, is your Texas rig and a plastic. Once again, 7.6. All the other rods were pretty heavy. But I really like the parabolic bend. Guys that have fished largemouth with me see me put this thing through absolute hell, and I load the heck out of that tip. But I put a really hard hook set into it, and this rod gives me all the forgiveness I need. Because if you're absolutely slamming into them with a cue stick, you're not giving any forgiveness. And if you have, like, you need a perfect hit with a super stiff rod. If you got forgiveness, it gives your rod time to actually absorb that fish, or you're just flying it out of the water. Like, I've thrown 2-pounders above me doing this. You've seen it. My hook set's aggressive with largemouth, but a lot of times, and even with the bigger stuff especially, it's more of a reel down and feel it, and then just kind of sweep in. A lot of times, I kind of get complacent and then just piss off the fish, and I just hammer them with this. It's the truth, I start swearing at them. But, so yeah, it's a good technique, everybody's throwing this stuff. I kind of keep it simple. This is legit my Texas rig box, so I'll pass that around to everybody. There's all my favorite baits. Pit Boss is my number one. I always have it. It's generally tied on. Between that, I'll go to the D-Bombs by Missile Baits. They're another good one. Jim's got them in stock at all times. And then there's the old Thieves. They don't make them anymore. But that's a great bait. It's got 4 appendages on it. It's got 2 outer flappers and then the center kind of beaver style baits. And it's just finding what you're confident in. That's the biggest thing. And my next tip, pegging it or not. I only peg it if I have to. Other than that, I don't. The reason for that is a fish can feel that weight right away. But even if you're kind of fishing in Carolina, I don't know if many guys do, but the fish will take that bait like this and they won't feel it. And every time you pop it, you're getting a different fall. If you peg it, your weight's locked, your bait's always going to fall the same way. If it's not locked, you're going to fall like a tube. You're going to glide, you're going to spin, you're going to swirl, it's going to go all over the place, and then it's going to catch up at the bottom, and it's going to float and slowly drop. If you're pegged, boom, you're to the bottom. You've got no secondary action. So I only peg when I absolutely have to, and that's kind of my biggest tip for kind of flipping and punching, is you're pegging and then just kind of covering water and being through. That's kind of my biggest stuff. Rod choices, like I said, 7.6s. Everybody on the market's got a flipping rod. You can't really go wrong. I'd say 7.6, medium heavy fast. I do like that parabolic tip to it. I believe this is it's a 7.6 heavy. It is a flipping specific rod. And then this one's a 7.6 medium heavy, which is a much stouter rod. Like, it gets into it, like, it's got a heavier backbone, but it's still parabolic off the tip. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions. Feel free to come play with these setups. But legit, this was the last stuff that was in my boat this year. It's what I use. I'm not hiding anything. That's the box I carry to all the tournaments. Like, legit, this is everything I use for largemouth. So I don't know if anybody had any questions. Rods, reels, setups, hooks, anything like that.
What type of hook? What brand of hook?
Hook, I love the Fusion 19. Straight shank. I don't know if you guys have watched the Paul Hunt video about polymer or snell knotting, but I'm true to the straight shank style with a polymer knot. It pulls straight, it keeps that gap open, and it's a super strong hook. So between that Berkley Fusion, it's a completely coated hook. It absolutely slides in. It's actually on that rod I just had out. This is the VMC, the Ike series. It's another good flipping hook. They have different bait keepers, but they're both straight jigs. A lot of guys use EWG. I'm just a big fan of straight jig. I wouldn't say there's a benefit to the other. This is just my confidence. And main reason, I like an open gap. The fish bites, it's straight in their mouth. EWG, you have your eye line, and then you drop down, your hook's in line with your eye line. So you don't have that open bite. The fish has to get its mouth in between your eyelid and your hook line with an EWG. With this, you have a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch wide open at all times. So that's kind of why I choose the open gap or the straight shank. And I'll go from a 3/0 to a 5/0 in my hooks. So that's kind of my go-to hook. And then hook type, and then sizes all depend on the size of bait, kind of what you're going for. If I'm in heavier cover, it doesn't really change. If I'm in open cover flipping, the hooks are strong. They're generally your extra strong shanks, so you won't have any issues. And don't be shy, like don't use light wire. You're gonna cry, you're gonna open up, bend it out, you're gonna get it on a cane stock, you're not gonna cut it in time, your hook's gonna open, you're gonna lose your fish. Anything else? Alright, now I get to bore you guys with eating stuff. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that a little bit, and yeah, like I said, I'll keep doing it. If you guys have suggestions on what you want, just let me know. That's another flipping style, or flipping jig. With the flipping jigs, you want that pointed head, like a heavier bulk head, to really penetrate that cover and be streamlined. You gotta think what you're going through. A football jig isn't gonna do it. A football jig is good in rocks, good for deflecting, good for rolling. If you throw that into weeds, you're not streamlined going through. Think about your flipping head, like your tungsten jigs. Always use tungsten, by the way. You get tons of responsiveness through the tungsten. But yeah, your jigs, they need to be slender and pointed profiles. I could do a whole night on jig talk. I've probably got 200 jigs at home. So.